what's up? It's Gabby and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my magical readathon TBR. So this is going to be like my September TBR part 1. This is for the magical readathon that's going on for the entire month of September. As you can see, I am trying to fit the readathon a little bit. This is an elaborate world with a bunch of characters, and I was kind of trying to fit the vibe of what I think my character would kind of look like. So I'll jump right into all of that. So this readathon is set in a completely new world. G over at Book Roast created this, and she took so much time and effort to make this literally so amazing. I'm so excited. But basically there's a bunch of different races, and we're all trying to get to our magical school. So the whole first readathon here is going to be the novice path. We're trying to complete paths like on a map, complete the prompts, and then like kind of go on to get to the school, and that's kind of when our first year will start. I think that is happening in April. I'll definitely leave her video linked below so you can get all the in-depth information. But my character choice was an earthling, which is basically an elemental, and then they go on to have factions of elemental magic such as earth, fire, water, all that good stuff. So I bet you can guess which one I chose, and that's fire. Team Fire all the way, every single day. I just kind of thought this is what a fire elemental heading to school for the first time might kind of look like. I have no idea, but like maybe like a modern day one. I don't know. I just wanted to fit the bill a little bit. I never really do like certain looks for videos, but I've always loved the idea of doing it. I just have never had a good enough reason where this one is the perfect reason. So hopefully kind of fitting the bill a little bit, but let's just jump into these 7 prompts and the 7 books that I hope to read. So a big rule for this is you cannot double up books, but I am doing Becca's Bookopoly, which will come as a part 2 video where I will be able to double up on those for each readathon, but not for the readathons prospectively. So this is 7 books and 7 prompts that I have here. Fingers crossed that now that I'm through my reading slump, I'll be able to tackle all of these in a hopefully timely manner. Technically, I only need to read, I think, 2 or 3 of these to complete the readathon, but being the overachiever I am, I really want to read all 7 prompts. The first prompt is to read a book with a map in it. This works out perfectly for me because I really want to read The Traitor Queen by Danielle L. Jensen. This is the 2nd book in the Bridge Kingdom duology, and I just recently finished The Bridge Kingdom. I loved it. I really want to pick up The Traitor Queen, so this is like a perfect opportunity because it does have a map in the beginning, and it's a really pretty map, so very excited for this one. The Bridge Kingdom basically follows a young princess who she's been trained her whole life to then marry the prince of another kingdom and become the queen of that kingdom and infiltrate to eventually like get her father's kingdom access to that kingdom, like because it's this big bridge and it's really hard to get there. Nobody's ever been able to conquer them, so she's supposed to go in as like a spy, but it doesn't really end up working out the way that her father had hoped when she realizes that this kingdom is not as bad as she's been led to believe her whole life. She's a super badass assassin, but she has to keep that under wraps, and she kind of eventually falls for the king of this country, and he falls for her in turn, and it's just really complex, but in like such a good way. There's so much politics, and the scenery and the setting is just so amazing. It's set on like these islands. It's very tropical. They're so amazing. I love this book so much. I could talk about it for a long time, but basically the second one is just a continuation of the first story, and I can't wait to pick it up. Next is read a book that keeps tempting you. There was actually a lot of books I could have picked for this one, but I decided to go with The Stopover by T.L. Swan. This is one that I keep seeing everywhere. I see it almost every day on this Facebook group I'm in, and I'm dying to pick it up because of how exciting it sounds and just the hype around it with the spice and all that. Basically, this book follows a young woman who is on an airplane, and she gets upgraded to first class for some reason, and while she's there, she kind of meets this guy who's apparently very attractive and a first class patron himself, and they kind of hit it off, and when their plane is grounded for a stopover, they decide they have nothing else to do, so they're kind of just gonna get together that night and just have like a one-night thing. But when it's over, they can't stop thinking about each other, so their relationship is probably going to become a little bit more. That's kind of all I know about that one. Overall, sounds pretty interesting. I like the idea of it being set in like a plane and revolving around travel and stuff. The series is called the Mile High Club, so it just sounds really steamy and exciting to me. Next up is read a standalone. So for this one, I picked Sparrow by L.J. Shin. I'm not 100% convinced that this will be the one I read, but it is one that I've had my eye on for a while, and it's a good standalone. I don't think it's too long, so I think it would fit the prompt really well. I just am not sure if it's the one I'll end up reading or not. I do have a big list for my Bookopoly, and some of those are standalones, and I could cross them over, but wishful thinking would have me reading Sparrow if I could actually attempt to do all these books. So Sparrow is supposed to be like a dark book. Her name is Sparrow, and she is, I think, forced into marriage somehow, kidnapped or bartered for her person to marry this guy. And I guess he's, I don't know if it's mafia, but he's like a big name in Boston. And so they get married, and I guess it's not the greatest relationship in the beginning, hence the like trigger warnings for violence, but it's supposed to eventually, I think, get steamy and gonna be some sort of, I want to say mafia romance, but I'm really not sure on that, so don't quote me on that. But I do think that it's going to have like him being some sort of crime boss in some way, and she's going to have to marry him. And basically it just kind of gives me The Kiss Thief, which I actually think she's the author of that as well. I'm not 100% sure, but it sounds pretty interesting. I know it's going to have like the steamy, dark relationship type thing, but hopefully it ends up being the kind where he's like the alpha, but whatever. I'm going too far. But anyways, I think that it's going to be really good, and I like the overall vibe of it. Plus, it's not too big, and it is a standalone, so hoping for the best with that one. The fourth one is read a book that features haunted places, ghosts, monsters, supernatural elements, something like that. For this one, I picked Monstrous Volume 2 by Marjorie Liu. This is the second book in the Monstrous series of graphic novels. They're like a steampunk series that follows our main character who has like a demon inside of her. All the other characters and factions and races, they're all different types of monsters or people with abilities and just different stuff like that. So it definitely fits the prompt really well, and it's a graphic novel, so it shouldn't take me too long. Basically, our main character has this demon inside of her, and everybody wants it because it's really powerful, and it can help turn the tides of like this overall war happening between the many different factions of creatures. And that's kind of the main gist of it. It's kind of hard to explain. It's really in-depth, and the world building is a lot to take in, but if you read it the first time, once you're through with it, it all starts to make a little bit more sense. So going into it, definitely be forewarned that the world building is a little rough, but very enjoyable. And of course, the illustrations make it 100% worth it. I don't know if you can hear that. I definitely can hear it. It's my puppy. I left her upstairs because she was making a ton of noise down here, but now she's kind of running around upstairs. So I hope you can't hear that, but in case you do, that's what it is. Next up is read a thriller or a mystery. So if you know me, I don't read that many thrillers at all. Hardly ever reading those, but I do have one on my TBR that I've really been wanting to pick up for a long time. It is a chunkier boy, so I'm a little worried about that, but that's The Diviners by Libba Bray. So this follows main character Evie, and it's set in the 1920s. She moves from, I think, a small town to New York to live with her uncle, but her uncle's kind of obsessed with the occult and things like that, and when somebody is murdered in a very cultish way, I'm pretty sure they get branded or something like that, there's this big mystery around it, and somehow she gets involved in trying to figure some stuff out. I know it has a lot of fantasy elements, but it does have this big mystery about the murder and stuff, so I'm counting that as a thriller mystery. Even if it's not 100% considered one, I'm going to count it, but I really don't know a ton about the book. I just liked the idea that it was set in the 1920s, heard a lot of great stuff about this series, and overall, it just sounded like something that I hadn't read before, and it sounded pretty exciting to me. Next up is read a 5-star prediction. So for this one, again, I had some trouble because there's a lot of books that I do think I would enjoy, but I went with one that I'm almost guaranteeing that I'm going to enjoy. That book is Punk 57 by Penelope Douglas. I recently read Penelope Douglas for the first time and loved it so much, 5 stars. So I feel like any book I read by her at this point would probably be a 5-star because I love her writing and the stories she's telling are so good. They've got the spice, they've got a great story, great characters, so I expect this one's going to be the same. I have talked about this book a lot in the past in, I think, a 5-star prediction video, which is another reason I went with this one because it is one that I have actually discussed being 5 stars. This follows 2 young people who, they have gender-neutral names, and their teachers end up accidentally switching them. They, live far apart, and they're going to be pen pals, their classes are doing a pen pal thing, and each of their teachers switches up their names because they are quite gender neutral. So instead of getting a girl and a girl and a boy, they get a girl and a boy to each other. So they start to form a friendship, and even after this pen pal in school ends, they still send letters to each other multiple times a day, every single day. They're corresponding constantly, but they agree to never meet because they have this idea of them in their head, this person that they just love so much, as a friend. And they don't want to spoil that by actually meeting in person or corresponding with actual text message or anything like that. So it's just the letters. And when they accidentally run into each other one day and one of them realizes who the other is, they don't like them very much. So it kind of ruins their relationship a little bit, but in a way that I'm pretty sure they somehow get back together because I believe it is a romance. So it just seems a little interesting. I've heard it's a bully romance, which I'm not super into, but I've also heard that it's really sweet and has a lot of romantic scenes and stuff. So I really don't know what else to expect aside from that main plot. Either way, it sounds, again, like nothing I've ever read, and it sounds super cool. And of course, Penelope Douglas gets my vote any day after reading that last one. And last but not least is to read a book in a school setting. Again, this was a really tough one. I love academy settings and school settings and stuff, so I have tons of books like that. But the one I ended up going with is actually, it has a school setting, but it's not even a dark academia type book. The book I chose is Lessons in Corruption by Gianna Darling. So this is a MC biker romance, but it's age gap where she's older and he's younger, and she's actually his teacher. So a big setting is in the school where she's teaching and he's there, and they accidentally have this romance before she realizes that he is too young for her. They meet at a bar, and because he is the heir to this entire MC club, he is at this bar, and she's like, okay, he must be an adult. So they kind of hook up a little bit, and then they go on a couple dates. School starts, he's in her class, and she does not know what to do. He's like, I don't care about any of that, we're still going to be together, and she's like, we can't. She's supposed to be a real good girl where he's obviously a biker. So there's a lot going on in this book, but overall it sounds super good. I did partially start it a little bit, and that's what led me to want to put it on this TBR, because I definitely want to continue it and get it finished sometime in September. It just seems really interesting. Since reading Birthday Girl, my first age gap romance, I didn't hate it like I expected to, so my friend was like, read another one, I just love this one. So far it's really good, and I definitely can see it getting better. I do struggle with the age gap thing sometimes when they go about it a certain way, but so far it seems to be okay, and I'm hoping for the best with that one, but it definitely has that school setting since it is a student-teacher romance. So those are the 7 books that I want to read to complete my novice path, to get to my school and start my training, which I think that does happen in April. I'm super excited. I loved the Magical Readathon before, and now that it's revamped, it seems so much better. I'm so excited. This sounds awesome. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you're participating in the Magical Readathon, let me know below which character you chose. I would love to know. It's so exciting to see everybody's choices. And if you're enjoying my content, be sure to like this video, hit the subscribe button, and then I'll see you in my next video.